Good morning. It's Concord Wind. I've been up all night and all day yesterday. Not all day. I got up at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I've been up since like 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and right now it is 7:30 in the morning. So, um, yeah, I've been up for a while. I guess because I couldn't sleep because I'm excited about going to the grocery store today. And since I got paid, I went ahead and sent my sister $20 for the gym membership. I did that to test my account to see if I got my check. Like, you know what I mean? Because I can't check my account any other way other than trying to buy something and seeing if it approves it or not. If it rejects it, then I didn't get my check, right? So that's how I test it. Then I promoted one of my videos because I promised Sprinkles that I would promote her channel. So I spent $10 on the video I made asking people to subscribe to her channel. I spent $10 on that to promote it because I promised I would do that. And then I paid off my Google ads for ads that I was running for the church. And then I went and got some biscuits and gravy and sausage and bacon, which is terrible, but I was hungry, and that's, I mean, I could have got like some bananas or something, but I wanted biscuits and gravy. And I also got an energy drink, which I'm not supposed to drink, and I have been throwing up since I drank it, but I needed something to keep me awake today. So to me, it's worth it. Um, I might not be saying that for long. If I go on a throwing up rampage. But yeah, I just wanted to make a video because I've been thinking about God. I've been listening to like secular music, and it just makes me miss God so much. Just like secular Japanese music, which I can't understand the lyrics, which helps. It does help that I can't understand the lyrics because I can just interpret it to be like Christian music, but because I can't understand it, I don't know for sure if my interpretation is correct. And since it's secular, my interpretation is definitely not correct. But it's hard to imagine Christian lyrics to a Japanese song, anyways. Like, I don't know. I usually imagine myself producing the song I'm listening to, which is really weird. And I'm like, why do I imagine this? It's just, I guess because when I was younger, I had a dream of making it big with music because I used to be really passionate about music, and now, like, I mean, obviously, I've used AI to make songs and uploaded it to my channel, which shows that I'm not really very serious about music anymore like I used to be. Like, there's definitely a quality drop in my music. Um, like if you look at my recent music and then you look at music that was released in like 2016 and 2022 and um, oh, do I have any music released in 2022? I don't know. I think 2020 is more the year I was the two big years for music for me was 2016 and 2020. Those were the 2 years I released a lot of music. I released like several albums in 2016, and I released like several albums in 2020, and that was my best work. And it's been downhill ever since. I just don't have the passion anymore. I don't know if it's because of the medication I'm on or what, but I've lost that fire, and I just don't have the passion for music anymore. I'll throw a song together in like an hour and upload it, and before I spent a lot more time on a song. I wanted to make sure it was perfect, and even after working on it for like days, You know, after uploading it, I would still find imperfections with it and be disappointed. And, um, but I would listen to songs that I was working on over and over and over to look for imperfections, and I would think it was perfect until I uploaded it and then listened to it again, and then was like, "Oh, this has got imperfections. I can't believe I uploaded this. How did I not catch those?" And then looking back years later, after my passion died, I look back and I'm like, "Wow, these songs were really good compared to what I make now." I mean, it's still not like professional, you know. It's still very obviously amateur music, I guess. I mean, some of it, like my "We Are the Robots" album, um, I don't know. Um, that album actually isn't that good. The Christian electronic music mix, which was originally called Meditation Mix, that's my best work, and that was done in 2016. And I listened to it with headphones and was like, "Wow, the bass is really good on these songs, and they're really well put together." And I just can't do it anymore. Like I've got a computer. I've got a computer specifically for music. Like in around 2022, I got a computer specifically for music, and before that, I was making music on my phone, and it's just not as good. Like. But enough about that. The reason why I wanted to make this video was because I wanted to read God's words. But before I get into that, there was some things I was thinking about last night that I wanted to talk about in a video, which is where does sin come from? Like, and I'll tell you where sin comes from. Sin comes from corrupt dispositions. Now, this is my understanding. From what I understand, the definition of sin is basically manifestations of opposition to God that are rooted in corrupt dispositions. So, what is a corrupt disposition? Well, like corrupt philosophies, such as money makes the world go round. Like, if you have that philosophy of money makes the world go round, you'll inevitably sin from having that philosophy ingrained in your mind and ingrained in your heart. It's a form of knowledge that manifests as a philosophy, and then that philosophy manifests as sin. It's a philosophy that is in opposition to the truth, and God is the source of truth. So anything in opposition to the truth is in opposition to God. And what's next? So there's philosophy, which philosophy is like the corrupt version of um, principle, right? And then there is knowledge, like, but knowledge in the form of ideology. An ideology, an example of corrupt ideology would be like man evolved from apes. That's science. And that results in sin, because if you believe that man evolved from apes, you don't believe man is created by God. Inevitably, you will sin as a result of that ideology, of that worldview, of that belief. When your foundation is that man evolved from apes instead of man was created by God, you will inevitably sin. So that's an example of that. And what am I doing? I'm breaking down what a corrupt disposition is. So a corrupt disposition consists of philosophies, which are basically corrupt principles. Um, they're called philosophies instead of principles because principle is usually associated with something positive, you normally, like, you wouldn't say corrupt principle. That's kind of a contradiction. I mean, it's logical to say that, it makes sense, but philosophy fits better, I think. And a philosophy basically is a corrupt principle. That's what a philosophy is, because philosophy comes from human understanding, on the basis of opposition to God. That's where philosophy comes from, because no philosopher has believed in God. I mean, and even if they did, even if there are philosophers that believe in God, they don't use their belief in God as a foundation for viewing the world. And even if they do, they don't have enough knowledge of God to be able to come to a correct conclusion. So no matter what, philosophy is always wrong. Principles, however, are correct. And principles come from God's words. We get the principles in God's words. And, there are principles that don't come from God's words, and those are typically called philosophies. Full circle. Um, but people in the world will call them principles, And, so, anyways, I'm breaking down what a corrupt disposition is. So it's like ideology, you know, principles or philosophies, whatever, and then nature. So, an example of nature is like the tendency to go gambling. Like, if you go gambling, you're a gambler. You gamble in everything you do, like everything is a gamble in your life when you're a gambler. Another example of nature is like chasing women, worshiping women, loving women more than anything. Um, this was my nature, which has changed, but this was my nature for a long time. Ever since I was a little boy, I've had this nature. It was deeply ingrained in me. And it's basically living your life for women. Everything you do is for women. Like, everything you do is to get a woman, to impress women, to sleep with women, to make women happy, to satisfy women. It's like that's a nature aspect. So, nature can change depending on what kind of nature it is, I think. I'm not really too sure about that. I think nature's, you know, involving um, like chasing women. I think that can change. I've experienced it. I know it can change because it's changed in me. I don't chase women anymore. I don't worship women. I worship God. And so, that's, I don't know if that's the only exception, because I don't have experience with other natures, because I've only had one, um, to an extent, I think. But I was a liar for most of my life, but I can't say that I had a deceitful nature, because um, the lies that I told were for women. You know what I mean? Like, so my nature was still about women. Like, even when I lied, I wasn't lying for the sake of lying. I was lying for women. So it was like everything revolved around this one thing, which was women. So that was my nature. That's how you determine your nature. It's like whatever you do, if everything you do revolves around one thing, that's your nature. And my nature has changed to basically obedience to God. That's how my nature has changed. My nature is loving God, obeying God. That's my new nature, because I'm a transformed creation. Like, so. And it's all thanks to God. It's not anything that I could have done on my own. Like, I know I've said in past videos, well, I mean, I have to give myself credit that I cooperated with God, but I can't even give myself credit for that because God is the one who told me to cooperate with Him. So it's like, if God hadn't have told me exactly what to do and put everything in explicit, vivid detail, I would still be stuck as the same old person that I've been most of my life. You know what I mean? So God gets all the glory and credit. So, as far as nature goes, I don't. I only understand my nature. I don't understand other natures. I mean, I understand them as concepts, but I don't have experience with them, so I don't really know. It's kind of like if you had never seen fire before, or if you had never seen hot coals before, you never experienced that, and someone tells you, fire is hot, like you can't touch it. Hot coals are, they're really hot. You can't touch it or you'll burn your hand. And they're like, burn your hand, like. So I guess like if you just keep your hand there like all day long, it'll burn, right? Because that's how it works when I go outside in the sun. If I don't wear sunscreen, I get a sunburn if I'm out for like hours and hours. And they're like, no, 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 it's instant. As soon as you touch it, you have to move your hand back. It's so hot. And they're like, how could something be that hot? Like, if they understand it, like, as far as when you explain it to them, they understand it superficially, but without experience, they don't really know. You know what I mean? Like, but once someone puts fire or some hot coals in front of them, and they put their hand over it and they feel the heat, and like, oh, I see. And maybe they even touch it a little bit, and then it burns a little bit, and they pull their hand back and like, oh, that is hot. I've never experienced anything that hot before. And they understand it fully at that point because they've experienced it. So I can only speak of my nature from experience. But from what I understand on a superficial level, there's this nature that's particularly dangerous, and I don't know if it can change or not, but it's basically being averse to the truth. It's when anytime you hear things related to God or related to the truth, you feel disgusted, you don't want to hear it. But when you hear things of the world, when you hear satanic things, when you hear things like money makes the world go round, man evolved from apes, when you hear things like that, you're very interested in it and it makes you happy. If you're like that, then your nature is being averse to the truth, and I don't think that can change. So if your nature is averse to the truth, don't expect to change. Don't expect to just, one day wake up and love the truth. Like you're probably never gonna love the truth. You're probably never gonna love God, but God always leaves a way out for everyone. So just because your nature can't change doesn't mean, that there's no way out for you. If you force yourself, if this is even possible, I mean, like, I don't even know if I should be saying this because, I mean, you shouldn't torture yourself. And, if your nature is being averse to the truth, God considers that an innate condition. And innate conditions are special conditions where a person can't change it, so they're not held accountable for it. So you may not go to heaven if you're averse to the truth, but you may not go to hell either. You know what I mean? Like, you might just be destroyed and just be at peace after you die, which is what you would believe anyways. Because people who are averse to the truth typically believe that after death it's just black. It's just nothingness. That's what they believe anyways. And so God just gives them what they believe. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's not, God rarely works in accordance with people's notions. But when it comes to innate conditions and when it comes to people who can't change and they can't bring themselves to love God or love the truth, no matter how hard they try, no matter how hard they want to, or how much they want to, like when it comes to an innate condition like that, God shows mercy on those people because it's not necessarily their fault that they're like that. Like you can't blame them for being that way. They're just kind of born that way and they can't change. So God does have mercy on those types of people. Um, Obviously, it's asking too much to say or to ask for those people to go to heaven. That's asking too much because obviously these people are opposed to God. I mean, but it's also asking too much to send them to hell because they can't control the fact that they're opposed to God. You know what I mean? So if you're one of those, don't worry too much about it. Just try to be the best person you can be. Um, I mean, I don't know what advice to give a person like that. It's hard. Um, and I can't really relate to that kind of person because I love the truth and I love talking about the truth. But I don't think most people are like that. And then there's people, who everything they say is a lie. Basically, they lie habitually. Habitual liars. And habitual liars are classified as devils. That's another innate condition. They can't help it. They can't control it. They can't change. And there is hope for those people. Um, because those people are capable of submitting to God's arrangements and saying things like, well, I'm a habitual liar, I'm a devil. What can be done about it? It's an innate condition I can't change. So even if God's house doesn't even treat me like a human, and if I'm just told to sweep the floors, if I can't even spread the gospel or do any important work, if all I can do is sweep the floors or take care of the pigs, if that's all the work I can do, I'll do it with my full heart, and I'll submit to God's house and I'll submit to God. If they say something like that and they really put it into practice, there's hope for them, because they're rebelling against themselves and they're rebelling against their innate nature. And so that might apply to the people who are averse to the truth. That might apply to them as well if they rebel against their innate nature. Even though their nature won't change, but their rebellion against their nature shows that they want to be saved and they want to obey God, even though they can't. But just that desire, the fact that they have that desire is, a good sign, and it's very hopeful. I'm not saying that they can be saved. I'm not saying they can't be saved. Um, but there's certainly a lot of hope that they can be saved if they can, like try to obey God and submit to God's arrangements, and that's quite impressive for someone in that position to be able to do. Um, that would be very hard. I mean, that would be like telling someone, like with Tourette syndrome, to stop their tics. And if you see that they're rebelling against it and they're trying to hold back and they take different medicines and they use different herbs and try different ways to stop it, and if you can see they're trying to stop it, rebelling against that innate nature, something they can't help, something they can't control, something that won't change, if you see them rebelling against that, because they have a desire to obey God, that's powerful. um, And, me, for example, um, I have schizophrenia, and, schizophrenia is categorized as a supernatural mental illness because schizophrenia involves, um, like a sixth or seventh sense that God did not create humans to have. Like when God created humans, he did not equip humans with the faculties to be able to perceive anything of the spiritual realm. Um, so schizophrenia is a supernatural phenomenon and it's abnormal. And there's two reasons why someone would have schizophrenia. Either they were born with no soul, and later in life, demons took advantage of their empty vessel by possessing it, and they developed schizophrenia as a result, or the person is a devil, and they develop schizophrenia as a result of being a devil. So those are the two, and there might be more reasons why someone could develop schizophrenia. I know I've heard it being said that it's hereditary. I don't know if that's true or not. I know it seems like a really odd coincidence that it runs in my family on my mom's side. I think that's a really weird coincidence if it's not a hereditary thing. So that might be another reason. It could just be, but it is still a supernatural phenomenon, so that doesn't make sense. It could be generational curse. Why it runs on my mom's side, it could be a generational curse. Like one of my ancestors did something really bad to oppose God and was cursed with schizophrenia, and then their lineage was cursed with schizophrenia, and I'm in that lineage. You know what I mean? It could be that could be why it runs in the family and why it's hereditary. That could be an explanation for that because there are such things as generational curses. So that could be an explanation for that. So it could be a curse. More than likely, it is a curse because my aunt and then my great grandmother and people on my mom's side of the family have schizophrenia, and then I have it, and it's just like that's you know too strange to be a coincidence. You know what I mean? Like that's it. It's just it makes sense that it's a generational curse thing, but that doesn't mean that those other two things I said, like being a devil, not having a soul, it doesn't mean those two things are like canceled out because it's a generational curse. Because part of the generational curse could be being born without a soul or being born a devil. It could be something like that. Like my mama ripped up a Bible, and when I was with my ex fiance in 2015, I burned a Bible, and it's like, that's really strange behavior. And like, why target the Bible specifically? Like, there were so many books in that apartment I could have burned, and I burned the Bible. That's really weird. Like, which thankfully I don't do anything like that anymore. I'm on medication now. I'm normal, thank God. And that's another thing that's kind of weird is like, since schizophrenia is a supernatural phenomenon, why does medication nullify it? You know, like, I understand that medication comes from like herbs and stuff like that. Even pharmaceutical medication comes from like herbs and minerals and stuff like that. So God created the resources it takes to put together medicine. Like, to create medicine comes from resources provided by God. So it would make sense that God would create a cure for schizophrenia. So there's a cure for schizophrenia in nature that was discovered, made into a medication, and that's what I'm on now, and that's why I don't have symptoms of schizophrenia anymore, right? Makes sense. So even supernatural illnesses, there's cures for found in nature because God is so wise and so wonderful that He created cures for everything. I'm sure God created a cure for cancer that we haven't discovered yet, or it has been discovered, but too much money is being made from like chemotherapy and stuff, and it's more profitable to big companies, um, to treat their cancer patients than to cure them. Um, so I believe that God has created a cure for every illness on the planet, you know, and it's all found in nature somewhere. Whether it's discovered already or whether it's yet to be discovered, there are cures for everything. And some of those cures may be suppressed or hidden by big companies that don't want to cure certain diseases because they profit off of it. And then there's other unnatural illnesses, um, which schizophrenia is an unnatural illness. But I'm just thinking of like autism. Like I don't think or know of like if there's a cure for autism. I just said that I believe that there's a cure for every illness found in nature, that God created a cure for everything. But I do believe there might be exceptions with like illnesses that are caused um, in the womb by like malnutrition or smoking or drinking or drug abuse or whatever. I think, there's birth defects that are caused due to unnatural circumstances where people are like, eating or drinking or smoking or abusing drugs outside of the natural order of things, the natural laws that God set forth for mankind to abide by, right? Um, that's interesting. I'd have to research if like remote tribes that have very healthy diets and no access to drugs or alcohol or smoking or anything, like I'll have to research, or you can research whatever, if there's like birth defects in those remote tribes that have like healthy diets and no access to alcohol or tobacco or drugs or whatever, like if they just have a healthy lifestyle and eat healthy and sleep normal, and like if they're just really normal people as far as their lifestyle goes, I wonder if there's less birth defects, or none at all. I do wonder that, because I do believe that birth defects are unnatural, and it comes from breaking the natural order of things by doing things against what we're designed to do, like going against our design. I do believe that happens. But anyways, back to what I was saying. With my schizophrenia, um, there is the possibility that I can't be saved. That's just a possibility. That's not a probability. It's a possibility. It's not likely. I most likely I can be saved. But it's still possible that I can't be saved. Um, and this one is more probable than possible, but it's probable that I won't be able to go to heaven. That's probable. That's most likely. That's more than possible. That's higher than possible. It's probable that I won't be able to go to heaven. And a normal person, um, hearing that about themselves, would probably stop believing in God and try to live the good life, and just try to live it up while they're on earth for as long as they can, and just try to live life to the fullest and live life to the fullest. But like for me, I've experienced that the more I love God, the more joy is in my heart. The happier I am, the more I love God, the more I dedicate myself to God, the happier I am. So to me, I'm living life to the fullest by serving God, obeying God. And if I don't go to heaven, then at least I live my life to the fullest by believing in God, loving God, serving God, obeying God, doing everything I can for God, and just trying to be close to Him and caring for His heart and wanting to contribute to the salvation of mankind, contribute to His management plan, contribute to Him being able to be at rest sooner, be at peace sooner, contribute to Him having a smile on His face, and contribute to His happiness. These are the things I want to contribute to. I want to contribute to God's will being done on earth as it is in heaven. And even if I don't get to go to heaven, that's fine, as long as I get to contribute to God's will being done on earth as it is in heaven. That's what I care about the most. And, that's powerful. Like, that really is powerful, because I'm not believing in God to get in heaven. I don't love God because I think He'll get me into heaven. Like, I'm like 85% sure that I'm not going to heaven, and I still believe and I still love Him. You know, um, so yeah, I mean, so if you want to be like that, more power to you, like, do it. Rebel against your innate nature, your innate characteristics, and do your best to live life to the fullest by obeying and loving God while you're alive. And it doesn't matter if you go to heaven or not. What matters is what you do while you're alive on earth. And if you can obey and love God while you're alive on earth, then you've lived a meaningful life and you've contributed to God's plan. You've contributed to His will being done on earth as it is in heaven. And you'll die satisfied. You'll die with a smile on your face, um, because you'll say, I live my life for God. I've done a good job. And it gives hope, because I think, you know, like that 85% sure that I'm not going to heaven turns into like a 25% sure that I'm not going to heaven. Because when I say these words out loud and I realize my resolve and my commitment to God, I realize God probably wouldn't turn me away. And most likely He'll just give me everlasting life and let me live forever on earth, as after He renews the earth. Because if I don't have a soul and can't go to heaven, I can at least live in the renewed earth. And that's what I think I have a lot of hope that will happen, because of how committed I am to God. That's not the reason why I'm committed to God. I'll be fine with just being destroyed and, not existing. I'll still live my life for God, knowing that. I don't need to be rewarded for my, love for God. I don't love God to be rewarded. Love for God to be rewarded is a transactional relationship. It's like employee and employer. The employee loves the employer for a paycheck. He obeys the employer for a paycheck. I don't love God for a paycheck. I don't obey God for a paycheck. I love God because He's beautiful, and I obey God because He's righteous. You know, and because He's the creator and He created me and gave me life, and I owe Him that much to obey Him. That's how much I owe Him. Like, even if God was, evil, I would obey Him because He's my creator, although it would be hard to, because I don't like evil things. But if I knew that He was my creator, then I would obey Him. But God's not evil, thank God. Thank God He's not evil. He is righteous and holy. So we get to obey a righteous and holy God. That's a good thing. That's wonderful. And we're so blessed and so lucky to have a good God, because what are the odds that God would be good? That's such a miracle that we have a good God. It really is such a miracle, and I'm so thankful He's good. Like, people should be more thankful for that. So, anyways, I wanted to read some words. Let's pray first. Dear Almighty God, I commit everything to you. I love you with all my heart, and I love you for who you are. And I hope you will enlighten us today. I've spoken so much about you. I've borne so much testimony, and I'm so thankful, and I'm so proud of you, and I'm so proud of myself. I'm so thankful for the work that you've done on me. I'm proud of the work that you've done on me. I've really changed a lot. I've come a long way, and it's all because of you. Thank you for never giving up on me. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to live a meaningful life. My life is full of so much meaning and purpose, and I'm so thankful for you. Amen. Amen. When people contact God with their hearts, when their heart's able to turn to Him entirely, this is the first step in man's love for God. If you want to love God, you must first be able to turn your heart to Him. What is turning your heart to God? It is when everything that you pursue in your heart is for the sake of loving and gaining God. This shows that you have completely turned your heart to God. Aside from God and His words, there is almost nothing else in your heart: family, wealth, husband, wife, children, etc. Even if there is, such things cannot occupy your heart, and you do not think of your future prospects, but only pursue loving God. At such time, you have completely turned your heart to God. Suppose you are still making plans for yourself in your heart and are always pursuing personal profit, always thinking, when can I make a small request of God? When will my family become wealthy? How can I get some nice clothing? If you are living in that state, it shows that your heart has not fully turned to God. If you only have God's words in your heart and you are able to pray to God and become close to Him at all times, as if He is very close to you, as if God is within you and you are within Him, if you are in that kind of state, it means that your heart is in the presence of God. If you pray to God and eat and drink of His words every day, are always thinking of the work of the church, and if you show consideration for God's will, use your heart to love Him genuinely and satisfy His heart, then your heart will belong to God. If your heart is occupied by a number of other things, then it is still occupied by Satan and it is not truly turned to God. When someone's heart is truly turned to God, they will have genuine, spontaneous love for Him and will be able to consider God's work. Although they may still have moments of foolishness and unreasonableness, they show concern for the interests of the house of God, His work, and their own change in disposition, and their heart is in the right place. Some people are always claiming that everything they do is for the church when in fact they are working to benefit themselves. People like this have the wrong kind of intention. They are crooked and deceitful, and most of the things they do are for their own personal benefit. This kind of person does not pursue love of God. Their hearts still belong to Satan and cannot turn toward God. Thus, God has no way of obtaining this kind of person. If you wish to love God truly and to be gained by Him, the first step is to turn your heart toward God entirely. And every single thing that you do, search yourself and ask, am I doing this based on a heart of love for God? Are there any personal intentions behind this? What is my actual goal in doing this? If you want to hand your heart over to God, you must first subdue your own heart, give up on all your own intentions, and achieve a state of being holy for God. This is the path to practicing giving your heart to God. What does subduing one's heart refer to? It is letting go of the extravagant desires of one's flesh, not coveting comfort or the benefits of status. It is doing everything to satisfy God and making one's heart fully for Him, not for oneself. This is sufficient. Amen. And when you take care of yourself, when you make sure you get plenty of sleep, plenty of food, when you make sure you're taken care of and you're surviving, when you abide by your survival instincts, you do it not for yourself, but you do it to do God's grace justice, to do the life that God gave you justice. When you're watching entertainment so that you're not going crazy from boredom, when you have downtime, you do it to maintain your sanity for the sake of keeping your testimony to God and for the sake of taking care of the life that God has given you. When you take care of your life, you're taking care of the life that God is giving you, and you're thankful for your life to God. You're thankful for the life that God has given you. So when everything you do revolves around God, it really changes things. And you should also be ready to give your life up for God if He asks for it. If God asks for your life, you should be ready to lay your life down for Him. And if He doesn't ask for your life, you should take care of your life for His sake. Don't take care of your life for your own sake. Take care of your life for His sake. And then you'll feel that your life is more meaningful when you're taking care of yourself for Him instead of yourself. Because when you take care of yourself just for yourself, you feel selfish, you feel guilty, you feel dirty, you feel nasty, you feel disgusting. But when you take care of yourself for God, you feel so thankful to God and so grateful to God for your life, and you feel that you really care about Him and you put Him first in your life, So thank God for everything. He's so wonderful, he's amazing. So um, amen. Um, yeah, thank God for the caffeine. Like, I haven't had caffeine in a long time. You guys know that. You guys know I haven't had caffeine in a long time. Today's the first day I've had caffeine in a long time, and it's a 46-minute video just because of caffeine. Caffeine really helps me get everything off my chest, helps me get everything out of my heart, helps get everything off my mind. And if it makes me throw up, you know what? It's worth it to be able to talk this much about God. Caffeine really is a good drug. I don't know why Mormons and Jehovah's Witnesses or whoever, they don't drink caffeine. And I don't know why. It would help them talk more from their heart and from their mind, like speak on their knowledge of God better if they were to do that. I don't know why they stay away from caffeine, although they probably don't have much knowledge of God because they believe weird things. But the stuff that I believe in isn't weird, is it? It's very practical, very normal, and it just makes sense. It's not some weird stuff. It's like very normal stuff that I believe in. I mean, you all know that. So thank God. Yeah, so you'll see me tomorrow. This has been a great video, probably my best video yet. In fact, I'm going to go ahead and say it. This is my best video yet. Thank God. Amen. All right, you'll see me tomorrow. Bye bye.